So we're still trying to recover from this season finale. We're still trying to process what happened. But one of the things that I think that is easily processable is the role of the second driver at Abu Dhabi. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, I would agree. To an extent, obviously some second drivers didn't really get in the way. Some didn't have the chance to. But there was definitely one who stood out. Now, who do you think stood out, Mr. Fanboy?
I think it should have been driver of the day. I understand what we did for Kimmy. It's his last. He didn't even get to hear the damn message or react to it because he retired. But I know we voted Kimmy. I didn't vote Kimmy. But Sergio Perez should have gotten driver of the day because what he did in that last race, as a whole, for the whole weekend, I think was really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I think that it's coming from driver of the day. That is the most Kimmy thing possible. To get driver of the day, retire, and not even get an interview. Just walk out with his sunglasses on, being like, "Yeah, I'm good. I made my money." That's so Kimi Räikkönen. I love it. But speaking of Perez, yeah, uh, solid number two, which also sounds funny. Definitely not a loose number two. He drove incredibly. He had a great race, but, besides getting DNF'd, which still hurts. It's what a
He deserved
wild
that
race.
podium. He 100% deserved that podium. He worked his fucking ass off for it. He qualified really well. Well, maybe not perfect, right? Maybe he should have been a little higher up. He qualified fifth, but I think he was there in striking distance at the very beginning. Actually, I think he qualified fourth. He was there within striking distance at the very beginning, and I think that was super crucial for Max Verstappen. And so Bottas was not present to help out Lewis, help cover at least one of the Red Bulls. So Max had to worry about two going into that turn. And as we saw, Max really just kind of was pretty aggressive just from the start, getting an awful start again. But Perez was there throughout the race, reminding Lewis, reminding Mercedes that, hey, whatever you do, you got to worry about me. Don't
Yeah,
forget,
they've
I'm here.
they've got another great driver in the works, which kind of flows into he was there to help, and we'll talk about that a little more, but what do you think his role for next year is going to be? Do you think he's really going to shine next year if he gets the first few races down and he's P1, P2? Are they going to give him the number one spot, or is he always going to be the support driver?
I think if he gets really good testing time, I think he has that potential to be up there with Max. I think Max is on a different league. I don't think he's ever going to consistently beat him more. And I hope I eat my words. That'd be awesome. But I don't
Yeah.
think he's going to consistently out qualify, out race pace Max Verstappen. I think he's going to be a very solid second driver for the team, constructors wise, championship wise, because he's going to be there. He needs to work on his qualifying a little more, but I think 2022 is going to bring a lot of positivity to his career and a lot more podiums for sure.
2022 is going to bring a lot of changes to the sport as a whole, for good and for bad. But if Perez can work it out, like you said, if he can get those testing times down, I mean, I could see him, if he somehow magically can handle the new car setup better than anybody else, I could see him easily being a number one driver. Would Max Verstappen let that happen? Maybe, maybe not.
Mm.
But Perez showed in this year that if he has the consistent lap times on a good race, on a good weekend, he's an excellent secondary driver. He's an excellent support driver. He takes the backup strategies in stride. He's
Yeah.
super graceful. I'd say, you don't hear a lot of complaining. Obviously, they're signing his paychecks, but
Yeah.
some people, if they're secondary drivers and they say you're going to take this strategy, they're going to complain and argue on the radio. He's just like,
Yeah.
okay, why? They give him an answer and he does it.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of Abu Dhabi, he had a great race. He he held him up for a while. I know you want to talk about it. I know you're excited. I personally thought it was a like too little, too late scenario,
Mm.
but I'd love to see your take on it.
Yeah, so or I guess Verstappen was down, right? He had pitted, and Lewis had pitted as well just after him. I think maybe a lap or two after, and Paris was out in front. So now when Lewis and Max passed them, Lewis had to pass Perez. So I think This set us up for a really interesting battle, just like happened in, I think it was in Turkey, or maybe it was Hungary, where they were fighting. I think this, once I saw that that was going to be the situation, I was like, we're in for a decent fight. I was hoping it was going to be a bit longer. I was hoping he was going to be holding him up maybe like 3 laps, 4 laps, just enough for Max to just get in the mix as well. But he was on those old beat up softs. He had 2 laps to, or I guess the lap to really slow him down, because at that point, Max was like a 10-second deficit to
He
Lewis.
was like 14 seconds.
Yeah, he was
like half a pit stop behind.
It was a huge deficit, and so it really was on Checo to make sure that he closed all of those windows for virtual safety car, for safety car pitting, and that was Perez's role in the race. So when Perez comes around, they really go at it. I couldn't believe how strong he got with those super old tires. I think he was saving his battery 100% for that moment.
He was saving his battery, and he was just saving his abilities.
Yeah.
People say he was very slow. In terms of race pace, he was very slow. But when it came down to the crucial defense moments, he really showed like he gave it his all. He dove, he got overtaken, he took it back over in a turn.
Yeah,
it was
awesome.
it was impressive, and it wasn't like, on the radio, Lewis was saying this dangerous drive, and it's like I've seen him do the same thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't very dangerous. It was aggressive.
Yeah,
But
it definitely was
dangerous.
aggressive.
It's not like he was going wide on the track and cutting back in slower than Hamilton. He was just diving in, taking the inside, taking the apex, and yeah, I'm sure for being slower, it could be dangerous if Lewis Hamilton didn't know where his brake pedal was, but I think he just wanted to vent on the radio, and Perez did a great job. He cut that deficit down to 5 seconds. In the end, it didn't help, and the safety car saved their championship season.
Yeah.
But, for him, I think it really showed like he has the ability, even if he isn't as quick, even on old softs, which old softs are way worse than old hards. Even on old soft tires, he showed that he can drive, and he can be a great secondary driver, taking one for the team basically, because fighting like that definitely slows down your laps.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard some of the commentators post-race talking about it, and they were like, we were watching it here live, and it was actually a very slow battle. Like, it wasn't high speed. It wasn't crazy because Checo was so slow. But I disagree with you on the point that it didn't really matter. I think it totally mattered, because imagine if Lewis had those 15, maybe even at that point it would have been 20-second lead on Hamilton. He would have been in the windows to pit safely and keep that track position. I think Perez ended up putting Hamilton in this very difficult position of
that's a good
not
point.
being able to pit anymore during those 2 opportunities, which were the safety car and the virtual safety car.
If you're talking about strategy-wise, in the moment, that definitely makes sense. I really wasn't thinking about how the pit stop would have been more effective, and where the window closing in, being, either stopping for a battle or just being able to be wide open by yourself when you get out and having even more speed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the strategy, I guess I could say the strategy didn't work out in the long run.
Right.
But in the moment, it was very well executed.
For sure. It was the most he could do in that situation.
Yeah.
So, super awesome stuff. If you notice, we're already a few minutes in. We've barely mentioned Bottas. He was not really around for the race. I think this really ended up screwing over Lewis, because imagine if Perez had qualified 6th and Bottas was 4th and jumped up to 3rd. Bottas would have been there 100% to cover Verstappen, I think, and we would be talking about how Lewis won his 8th Drivers' Championship. I think because Bottas wasn't there, I think that's the reason they lost as well.
No, you're right. That was another factor. If Bottas was closer, the strategy would have been way different. They probably would have been way more comfortable with Hamilton pitting.
Yeah.
But since Bottas wasn't there, so they could have a close secondary strat. Usually the 1-2 drivers, one person goes long, one person goes short, and they do different tire changes at different times just to see how the strategy works out. Bottas just was not close enough for them to have that comfortability, the flexibility to have different strategies. So they had to risk it and keep Hamilton out. And that's not Bottas' fault. It was a tough race. He qualified pretty poorly. He was never in the position. He never had the ability to get in front of Max. And I mean, you know, he's leaving. I don't see why he cares. He kind of knew where he had to finish
Yeah.
to get the what is it? The championship for the constructors championship. But
And he did
yeah, I
achieve
could.
that.
They did achieve that, so I don't think he's too worried about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not super happy, even though he was out partying. I'm sure he wasn't super happy in the moment that Lewis didn't win, but he was like, "Who cares?"
Yeah, yeah, I
At the
think
end of the
it's
day, who
yeah,
cares?
it's a done season. You know, I think at this point there's nothing you can do but get over it. And so yeah, I mean that just really shows the importance of the second driver. And so now, you know, going forward into that 22 season, we're gonna have a new introduction of second drivers to some teams. And there's going to be some second drivers that were second drivers this year that are moving up to that first driver role. I think that's going to have a huge impact as well on the team's seasons, is how well their second driver adapts to be there to cover the strategies, whether it's against Red Bull and Mercedes or whether it's Ferrari and McLaren. Will that second driver be there to really cover the ass of whatever you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be fun to see going into testing and during the off season, especially with a couple of new rookies coming in. Who's gonna be driver number two?
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're talking about Mercedes, George Russell, driver number two, no doubt. If we're talking about, McLaren, AlphaTauri, depending on how the new drivers handle the new cars, it could be a big mix-up, and I have a good feeling that 2022 is going to shake up the grid a lot, and the
Yeah.
midfield's going to be more competitive.
At least we hope so, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I think, and it's the same thing with any new thing they add. The first half of the season is going to be like, oh, everybody's still learning. The podiums are different. And then the second half, it's like, okay, the champion takes it. If there's not a super close title fight, the champion usually wins over and over and over again. And the midfield gets separated pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll definitely be good to see. And so again, the importance of that second driver is crucial to teams, whether it's for constructors wise position or driving for the title fight. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And thank you to all the second drivers. You might be number two, but you're number one in my heart because it is a
Always.
team race.
Yeah.